All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the PT on Ice Daily Show. I am Dr. Jeff Moore, currently serving as the CEO of ICE, and always thrilled to welcome you to another Leadership Thursday. As always, team, if it's Leadership Thursday, it's Gut Check Thursday. I am not going to run down the workout this week because it is 12 days of Christmas and there are a lot of steps. I will say it's a very reasonable 12 days of Christmas. I glanced at the Mayhem one and thought that is probably outside of my skill set. But the one here on PT on Ice, I think, is very reasonable. So take a look at that. Remember, you start at 1 and then 2-1, then 3-2-1. So you're going to revisit those lower numbers quite a few times. So have a look at it, see if you can knock it out, and please tag Ice Physio with your video or your hyperlapse when you do. Always love seeing you all challenge yourself with those Gut Check Thursdays. As far as courses coming up, as I mentioned last week, we have a ton of them. Our online courses in particular, those tend to kind of start in cohorts, and almost every online course we have kicks off in the first 2 weeks of January. So go to ptonice.com, check that out. I will be going, as far as live courses, I will be going to join Alexis Morgan, who's running our first pregnancy and postpartum live course of 2023 in Chicago. I believe it's January 21st, 22nd, that's Saturday, Sunday. So I will be in Chicago, Illinois with Alexis. That class is going to have a massive 2023. I think, the combination of, learning an internal exam, learning all the fitness forward principles, being in clinic Saturday and the gym on Sunday. It's just such a dynamic course, such a fitness forward offering in that pregnancy and postpartum space. So can't wait to watch Alexis do her thing and join everybody there in Chicago. So looking forward to that. All of that lives on ptonice.com. Please check that out if you have a moment. Okay, Leadership Thursday. I really want to chat about this idea of building a team. And I guess what I actually want to chat about is the struggle that everybody seems to be having. What I mean by that is I can't tell you the amount of times that I hear nobody ever hangs around. Right? Whatever happened to the company employee, right? This is a very common gripe among people that have owned anything for any period of time, that they can't seem to keep people on board and build a team. And the reason I hear about it a lot is how often we preach, if you want to go far, go together. So kind of the combination of those things, our motto is that we really do believe that going together is the answer to so many things that ail from burnout to overall success and productivity and longevity. We really believe going together is the best solution for that. Well, you can't do that if you can't build a team that stays together. My argument every time I hear this is that people are trying to hang on to the old business model in a new era of business. This is the number one reason that people can't build teams. So let me explain very clearly. The old model, the way that business has been done historically, right? For time eternity, I'm not just talking about physical therapy. I'm talking about business. There was a really, really heavy investment required upfront that in any other form could be looked at as the tools that you need to create the widget, right? Or the product or the car, if you will, or whatever you're manufacturing. There was a massive investment up front. In PT biz, I would argue that was true as well, because back in the day, documentation systems, overall practice management softwares, those systems used to be a lot more expensive. People used to have a lot of, I'm trying to be careful with the way I say this, but a lot more equipment in their clinics. And by a lot more, I mean a lot of unnecessary equipment. Like, it's kind of a running joke at ICE that we'll often hear like a clinic can't afford a barbell and a rig, but they've got 6 new steps. And we always struggle with making sense of that. But certainly back in the days of modalities, when everybody had a couple hydroculators, everybody had 4 E-stim units, everybody had 3 new steps, it was really expensive to start your practice. And the space to put all that stuff, the actual physical building, was quite large. The point is, back in the day, regardless of what era of business you were in, there was a lot of investment to get in the game. So there was a really big risk. Because of that, owners expected to and did take a really large share of the profit. And this was justifiable because the employee would say, well, it's a really big barrier to entry. So I'm just really glad to have this good job. I'm glad somebody else took the risk. And I'm more than willing to give up a fair amount of the profits of what I generate because I didn't take that risk. And to be fully honest, I don't want to. That was the old way of business, not only in physical therapy, but in so many things. Building the websites were challenging, right? All of that stuff costed more. There weren't as many competitive options. Everything you did, from marketing to actually building the product to executing the mission, all of it was more expensive, larger barrier to entry. Cue the new model. It is the exact opposite. I'll speak to our business specifically. When you look at starting a PT practice compared to even 15 years ago, it is massively streamlined. Look at the documentation. Right now, we're partnered up with Jane. They're sponsoring ICE, and we're partnered up with Jane for a reason. They're incredible. Everybody who uses that EMR, practice management software, says the same thing. This is so slick. There's none of the unnecessary bulk to it. It's extremely intuitive. It's got a really fun user interface. And the barrier to entry, the cost is what? 30, 40 bucks a month? That's all you need for best in class software. Equipment nowadays, we encourage to minimize all that stuff. We encourage a really high quality squat rack, so a barbell, some bumpers, a thing of kettlebells, a high quality bench, a good high low, and a bike. It doesn't take very much. Well, if you don't have very much equipment, your space is smaller. All of those things make it pretty easy to jump in and start up a practice. There's a very low barrier to entry. You can imagine, I love this because that means more people are going to try to launch, which means there's more competition, which means there's always a better product. But the result of the fact that it's now streamlined is the owner or creator, whoever starts the thing, and I don't care if it's ICE or if it's a PT clinic or whatever, the owner does not deserve to take the same percentage of profit share that the owner in a bygone day took, because the barrier to entry just isn't as large. Any employee is going to say, look, I know that you didn't have to put out all that much. I'm not saying, I can already feel the hairs in the back of everybody's neck. The gloves are going up. I'm not saying you didn't work hard. I'm not saying it wasn't hard to get it going. I'm just saying the actual mechanics, when you look at the financial risk, the thing that keeps most people out of the game, that is significantly lower now across pretty much every business, because all of the other products we talk have more competition. So it's easier to use one of them to get into the game. So employees nowadays are like, look, I know the drill here, man. Like, it doesn't cost all that much to start up. If you're going to take the vast majority of the profits I generate, that doesn't make sense. I'm just going to do this by myself, and they should. So the bad news I have for all of you who are coming to gripe to me of why are they leaving, my answer is they should. You're trying to take the profits. You're trying to take all the write-offs. You're trying to take the vast majority of the profits, all of the benefits and the perks of being an owner that used to have those things because their investment was so large. You're still trying to take those when the barrier to entry for the people working alongside of you isn't nearly as high to go get those things themselves. So what you have to acknowledge, you got to just take a breath and realize that the barrier to entry isn't as high. So the perks of ownership are going to look a lot different in this era than they did 15 years ago or 20 years ago. So you have to acknowledge that. That's the solution. And I don't mean acknowledge that with a employee of the month plaque or a Christmas card. I mean acknowledge that with money. I mean acknowledge that by saying, I know you could go do this by yourself without a massive barrier to entry. And I am going to acknowledge that with you getting to keep a pretty significant chunk of your profits. I'm not trying to take them all because I realize what this game looks like now. We're going to structure it so you can get a lot of your own write-offs. I'm going to help you build a team underneath you that you can then help and take a small percentage from those folks as you mentor them towards excellence. Team, it's the 20%, 10% rule. I've said this on a wide variety of podcasts, but that's how I want you to think about the new era of business. If you're really serious, if you believe in the value of a team, and you don't want to see your people run away, and you want 15 years down the road to be able to sit around with your crew and talk about how the company changed over the generations in different phases and be able to have those bonds and really connect and grow together, I cannot think of a more valuable thing from all, not just business perspectives, but all sorts of personal life aspects of that growth and friendship and fostering and community. I can't say enough good things about that. If you want to do that in this era, leverage the 20%, 10% rule. And what I mean by that is acknowledge that you're making it about 20% easier for the people coming behind you. I know that hurt. I can feel it. I know that hurts for a lot of you to acknowledge. No, there's no way that my experience and my team, you're making it about 20% easier. That 20% significant. Like you, by creating the tools, right, are making it about 20% easier. You, by your mentorship and your reps and your guidance, you're making it about 20% easier. That's a pretty significant number. The win-win then is take about 10% of the profit. Right? If you can take about 10% of the profit, now you got to account for all of your actual hardwired expense and systems. But if you can think about making it 20% easier and at the very end of the day, getting about 10% of the profit, that ratio is the win-win. That ratio is the win that makes the employee say, look, I'm getting a significant amount out of this. Right. And I'm certainly giving some too. Like once you crunch all the expenses and you're looking at net stuff, coughing up 10% is a really big deal. But it's not 60%. It's not 70% like it used to be. You look at the old way of doing biz, and you're talking about people keeping a very small percentage and having none of the write-offs, having none of the autonomy, right? Having none of the actual perks that come along with running a business. If you can give those things back, you can acknowledge that, yes, I did some important things to get us here. Yes, I deserve something for that. But the barriers look a lot different than they used to. And so my structure has to mirror that. If you can acknowledge that, you don't need to take so much from any one person. You can build horizontally in a way that we never could before because these things are so much more accessible. Well, team, taking a little bit from a ton of people is the same end equation as taking a lot from one person. So why don't you think bigger? Why don't you think now that these tools are more affordable, now that these systems are so much more slick, why don't I just build so much bigger, which is going to help me accomplish my mission of reaching more people anyways, take a smaller percentage from each person, but at the end of the day, if it gets wide enough, everybody gets to walk home happy. Everybody can be in that hierarchy, and everybody can feel like at the end of the day, they got a really fair shake. And that's what keeps people in your business. You're not going to build a sustainable team by taking more than you deserve. I don't have a nicer way to say that. Leverage the fact and acknowledge that nowadays systems are a bit more affordable. And by a bit, I mean a significant amount. There's more competition in that space. So we can get those tools easier. So we can get them to more people. Barriers are lower. Think about building wider. 20%, 10%. That's what you gave. That's what you take. And at the end of the day, it's the size of your mission that's going to result in that success that you're looking for, not by really raking one or two people over the coals. I know there's some hard truths there. I know it's hard to roll around in your head. You feel like I started this, I deserve so much. I'm not saying you don't. I'm just saying you got to grow a lot horizontally and you got to make a lot of other people successful in order to get there. You want a team? Ditch the old model. Thanks for listening, team. I know it can be a tough topic. Hit me up anytime. PTOnice.com. It's where all the courses live. Take care, team. Have an awesome Thursday. Cheers.